Hello guys, welcome to this new video. Today we're gonna see how to make an industrial kick or our techno kick. This is the video you've all been waiting for. Just before beginning, just want to say thank you for every people that gave some donations through taking the different project files. And by the way, all project files are available for my previous video. So you can check them. It's in the link in the description of the videos. So we're gonna start and see how to make this kind of kicks. I'm going to show you different steps. These steps could be guidelines to follow to create a kick. It's not mandatory because you know in techno production there's no rules, and it's just for you to have a kind of framework to follow and to make your kick. Be aware that making kicks takes some time. I can spend like 1 hour or 2 hours sometimes on kicks, and I think experience and lots of practice is necessary to build the best kicks. Especially you are training your ears. So by having multiple years of production, you get better at it. So take your time, just experiment and enjoy the process to build this kick. Just before beginning, I just want to say also that I'm giving away 30 kick samples for free. You have the link in the description of the video. So just enjoy using all of these kicks. And so there's different kicks, some more industrial, some more techno, different BPMs. And I'm going to show you a few examples of how I build 1 or 2 kicks. I use the same framework for all of them. So I'm going to show you, depending on the level of distortion that you apply and the level of treatment, processing, you get different results. So going from hard techno to industrial to hard industrial techno. Also be aware that you can get the project file from this video. So I will leave these processing and parameters, and you can just play with it and change the different samples. You'll get different results, and you will be able to recreate those kind of kicks. All right, let's get into it. So I chose 2 kicks for explaining my process. This one and this one. It's just to show you that even with some simple samples like 909s, you can get those kind of results, those industrial vibe, not necessarily having a pre-processed sample. All right, so first step is having one clean sample, one clean sub layer. So through this framework, I'm going to show you how to make a kick by layering. So to do these layers, I have to have a sub layer, a mid layer, a top layer, a rumble, and some ornaments or other layers to bring some ambience, stuff, grit, distortion that could be added depending on the kind of kick that you want to do. But for every kick, the first step is having one clean sample, one kick sub layer. For this example, I chose a simple 909 sample. So without processing, you see it's a basic 909. It's taken from Ableton samples. And you have just a clean sub. You know, there's no processing, there's no transient, there's just a sub. So your speakers can do produce this big sub. The reason for having just one is that I'm going to show you if I have 2 sub layers that I combine, the problem is the phase. So I'm gonna take another 909 to show you. So you see, just by hearing, you already feel that the sub is missing. It's kind of boomy, because here, if the sine waves are not perfectly aligned, this is gonna cancel the wave. So if I record this, there you go. For instance, all of this part is cancelled because it's not in phase. And you can also check this with an EQ. So you can check your sub in your kick. So here I have my sample. I can check the sub using an EQ just by hearing. So it's pretty clean. I have the other sample, so it's a sub layer also. It's clean. And also I can check with the spectrum. I have this big fundamental that is easy to identify. And if I combine the two and that I record both of them, you feel like it's boomy. And the way to adjust that is by using these audio files. You can check either to align those sine wave. So for instance, I can take here and make sure it's exactly in phase, but since it's not the same frequency, it will be not in phase along the whole sample. Or I can use this utility, and sometimes I can reverse the phase so that it's in the same. So for instance, if it's completely here it's a plus phase and here it's a minus phase, I can put it in the same phase by using this. So you will hear. So here it's cancelling, and here it's boosting, and actually it's too much, so that's why it saturates. So this is the only way to combine two sine wave and two sub layers. So it's very complicated. You can try, you can work sometimes. You can have two samples that works well together, but it's better if it's the same key and if you are in phase. But if you want to keep it simple, it's better to have just one sub layer. So here for my kick, I just have this layer. I just EQ something that was annoying, but here just like nothing. Maybe it was for another kick sample that I kept this EQ. And then you can process if you like, but this depends on the kind of sub and the kind of kick, the final product that you want. You will see at the end, if you want something that's more industrial, of course, you can distort this. Or you can keep it like this. Okay, so second step is building a rumble. So your rumble is going to be what answers the sub layer from the kick. So during the first part of the bar, you have this body from the kick, the punch, and to answer that, the speaker will bounce, and this is your rumble that will answer. So to build this kind of rumble, the easiest way is either using your kick sample. So here I used another sample, but it can work with the same. And I just duplicate it in the 16th pattern. This way I have something that's a bit more moving as a rumble. This is a triplet. And then I can distort it to have more of an industrial feeling. So same thing, the level of distortion that you will apply depends on the kind of style that you want to do for your kick. And UAQ. And the biggest important thing is of course, the sidechain, because you don't want to interfere here with your kick sample, your sublayer, for the same reason that you don't want to apply two sublayers. You don't want any sub in here. Actually, I could have delete this one and maybe this one, depending. Sometimes your rumble can be starting here, sometimes after, it depends on the feeling that you want to bring. And the other way to build this rumble is using the classical one that you must all know. So you take your kick, you put on a reverb. So usually convolution reverb is the best choice because you get this big space in here. You apply 100%, and then the thing is that the rumble, to be thick and strong enough, has to be really distorted and really compressed. It's really like a mass of sub, because if not, it will be too weak. So you can hear. So I need. So you see it works, but I'm missing like the sub without the distortion. So I can use any kind of distortion. Again, it depends on the feeling that you want. And then you can apply, and you see it instantly work. And then you can place your EQ depending on the kind of resonancy that you want. So this works also. So for this one, I apply the heavy mode, and to put it in the audio file, you can freeze and flatten, and it will be better for your processor also. And so you can also do your sidechain just using directly the sample. So you can adjust. Okay. And you can combine, since it's just a mass of sub, here you can try and apply a bit of groove. So that's why in this kick I use both a 16th rumble and this one, and you can check again your sub using an EQ to see if you're not missing some sub frequencies by adding 2 layers. So in this case it was okay, and it was adding a bit more mid, low mid here. That was interesting. So that's it for the rumble. So at the end of this step, I have my sub layer and I have my rumble. And now I need to build up my kick with the mid layers and the top layers. So you see I have a lot of them. Again, you can experiment, try as much layer as you want. You can build those layers until you get the sound that you want, until it's strong enough. The big thing about this kick is really about managing the volume from the different parts so that it's balanced and that you don't mess the dynamic from your kick, and that you get a full sounding kick with all of the frequency spectrum. So I use those mid layers. To do this kind of mid layers, I use different samples, 909s, impacts, whatever. And basically, I just EQ to withdraw the low part of these samples. And I apply the distortion that I wanted that sounded good. So for instance, I have this one. You see, at first it was a kick from Ableton, really a mild kick. And I pitched it down because usually when you pitch down some sub frequencies, some samples with lots of sub, you get some grit in the high end. And when you boost it with a distortion, that's when you get this grit here. So that's why I did. It's just subtle. You see, like the sample is really playing a small role in the mid layer. Here I have another 99 sample. So basic one. Again, I pitched it down. Maybe I didn't pitch it down at first, but when I applied the processing, I tried after. So here, just a bit of delay to have something moving already. Some saturation, some distortion. So you see just 25%, something like that, just to get the grit. Also, it's better to have two different amps than applying one amp, one big amp. That will mess up the whole thing. And I withdraw the low frequencies. So actually, this is mid and top layers, of course. And so you see when I pitch it down, I get almost like a bass sound, and I can mimic those kind of harmonics that usually comes from reverse bass or this kind of bass. And so I build up those mid layers. I have another one. So this one is really like the biggest you see in terms of volume, and it's just the punch. So just a 99 kick. And from this one, I just want to get really like the punch, the harmonics, and the big mid frequencies. And I just sidechain a bit to get really like the transient part. Because usually, if you have too much frequency in here on your kicks, that's where you get the boomy part when the sub is going down. So it's better to have a big transient, lots of frequencies that are concentrated in this transient part. And then you have the body, usually this sub layer, and then finally the rumble. And I have a final layer, same thing, just a kick sample, pretty mild. Distortion, harmonics, and I keep it in the mids. And with this, I have all of these mid layers. So you see, it's still not processed, it's still not strong, but I'm building up those frequencies that I will enhance after with the saturation. And actually, I had this saturation on. And so finally, just missing those top kicks. So for my top kicks, I usually take my kicks, I'm just taking the transient here. I can boost up with an overdrive, of course, no low frequencies, same thing. Top kick here, I use lots of impacts because usually there is a strong transient on the impacts, and it's a good way to have different textures to be used as a layer. And for the impacts, lots of time, you can try pitch it down to get different rooms, different vibes. And finally, I just have another one, and this one is even more distorted, and it's really to have a texture. So you see, I have lots of saturation, different amps, like 3-4 of them. So don't hesitate to apply lots of processing. And you see it's just a sub. At first it was just a kick sample, a thin one. And as explained earlier, I pitch it down a lot because when you boost those frequencies, that's where you get some grit. Here, those nasty sound that will really give this industrial vibe to the whole thing. So now I have all of those frequencies, and the next step is the group processing. And for the group processing, this is actually the most important part. This is where you get the strong feeling from your kick. This is where you manage the dynamic, the whole distortion. And this is the kind of result that you can get. So this is the step from which you go from a kind of techno drum cut kick to a hard techno industrial kick. And the first step is placing the distortion where you want it to be. So depending if you want hard industrial, hard techno, you will apply more or less some saturation. So already on the punch, you can decide how you want to sound. You can sound very heavy and distort a lot. Same thing for your mid layers. So here it was like a mid punch. And then you apply your saturation. And as I always say, it's better to have 2 analog saturation like this than having 1 big hard curve saturation that will mess up the whole dynamic. You can use this hard curve, but if you want to, you really have to have 2 layers and do some parallel processing. So you want to keep a clean layer because you will have your sub, but here your hard curve, this will destroy this sub, and your speaker won't be able to produce a clean sub frequency. So if you want to keep the hard curve, you can use it and sidechain and use some delay to get some grit in the rumble. But really, on the whole thing, you can apply only mild saturation. At least it's better in the general case. And so this time I use this one. So this was something like this. Next step is using a compressor. So it's to better manage the dynamic and get a bit more punch. So here it's medium attack and release and quite low ratio because you don't want to mess the whole dynamic. Again, it's better to apply 2 compressor than just 1 with big ratio. And then EQ. Of course, EQing is important at every phase of each layer. So you see here, I have withdraw some resonances. So when using lots of amp, lots of distortion, usually you have lots of 10K frequencies that are annoying and too harsh for your ears. Here it was a bit too boomy in the mid-range, and I already had some other mid-layer that was cleaner here. So you really have to EQ at every steps of the process. And especially here, because after applying so much saturation, even here, actually I could have already make an EQ here, but I did it on the whole group. You get lots of mud from the distortion. So sometimes it's better because it gives this industrial feeling. But here it's more clean, and then you get more punch by using this EQ. It's also a good thing when you EQ, always EQ narrow, so like this. And when you boost, it's better to boost in the wide mode with a big, a very low Q, actually. So that's what I did here. Just using my ears, trying to identify the different resonances. So here it's pretty clear when you withdraw it. You see, it's a lot better. Having a bit more highs because it was lacking. Maybe I could have played with the volume here, with the top kicks, or here I use the EQ. I think here I just apply this. Well, no, but you can also make sure that your bass is in mono, because it's important for club speakers. And really here, just applied different EQs using my ears, trying to balance the frequencies out. And really here it's about using your experience, your ears. Try also to hear at different volumes, at low volumes, at high volume, because your ear doesn't hear the frequencies at the same level depending on the volume. You can also try on different speakers or headphones, because your speakers has a color frequency response, and this could be biased when you hear what comes from the DAW. And at the end, just used a mild amp. This often works because it adds a bit of saturation and put in front the high frequencies, and sometimes it works a lot. So you see, in the whole EQ process, I was missing lots of highs, and I was withdrawing a bit of mud. And of course, as I boost the highs, I had to boost a little bit the punch. And the final touch, and it's really important, especially for those industrial and hard techno kicks, is the limiter. Because when you hard clip, that's where you get those gritty. So I'm gonna record this to show you. Here, this is the hard clipping that does this kind of sound. And it's really important to get better results. And this will also compress a lot. And that's what the style asks. Because if I don't use the limiter, so I have to put down the volume. You see, it's a lot more clean, less compressed, less distortion. So you can get some industrial vibe and distortion from the limiter. And there you go, you have your kick. After this, you can still play with it. For instance, I can use this. I can apply another distortion to make parallel processing. So like this, for instance. So I can get even more grids. I can add a sidechain also. I can also get some industrial vibe with some kind of perk, with some 16 pattern. So like this. I can add the delay and play with it. So when I'm doing this, I'm actually doing parallel processing. It's the same as building here an audio effect track and adding up some kind of processing. So this is my first example, and with this you can use it as a kind of a kick rack. It's just that I like to work with audio because I can see what are my samples, what kind of frequencies I'm playing with. I can play here with the fader. I can add as multiple layers as I want. I can use different samples, and so I think it's a good way to layer and building those kicks. So just to show you with another kicks example here for my second one, I used exactly the same step, the same processing. The only difference is that I use different samples. I apply different kind of EQs, and sometimes not, and different level of saturation. So you see I have my main kick. It's just that this time I used already processed kick. So you can use all of your kick samples that I already processed. It's interesting to get different results, but be careful, because if it's too processed at the beginning and that your sub layer is too processed, you will lack some sub and some punch. So here it was a kick sample from Randomer. It was processed, but still have my sub. So you see it's pretty clean. So here I have low saturation compared to the other one. Then I have my rumble. I think it's exactly the same. So just the rumble and the 16ths. I have some mid layers, but I have less than before. So here it's the same punch, 909. Here is the same. You can use any kind of sample, actually it would be the same results. You see, just the length, that difference. And a top kick. So I think it was the same. And I think the biggest difference is in the grid. So I used this sample. It's very okay, so it's really like an industrial layer from this sample pack. I've pitched it up, and same processing. I get some grits, and here's the same. I think I used a kick sample, but I only took the rumble parts. So yeah, at first it was a kick. So you can play with sample, take small parts, chop them up, and doing different things. So it was my my kick sample from the main kick, and I just took this part, and then I apply some distortion, and I have, you see, this kind of ambience. And then I think it's the same processing, saturation, EQ, and so on, and you get this massive kick. So really that's it. You can play with it. Sometimes you keep all of the sample. You see, I can show you if I take like a big process keys. So I can take, for instance, those Beijou kicks. Really like crazy thing. You can pitch it down also. You can play with the volume here. And with the limiter, it will apply a different level of saturation. So if I push it too much, since it's already heavily processed, I will lose too much dynamic. So you have to be careful with the process kick. But yeah, if you use 909, here if you want something heavy, so really you just play with it, try different samples, different ambience. You can take in packs, you can take perks, you can take snare. Really it's just about being creative. I think the most difficult part is EQing here, playing with the volume to have something that's not so compressed that it loses so much dynamic. And yeah, just have fun with it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've put up lots of work in it, so please share, subscribe, like the video if you like it, and if you want more content like this, I'll be happy to help you guys, and I learn a lot in the process, so it's really a pleasure for me. So thank you for the support, and see you in the next video.